By the time I was ready to let God fix my codependency issues, I was already approaching my 40s and a hot mess. My heart ached. All the years I wasted thinking I could fix this person or keep the peace with that person by being who they wanted me to be. I believed the lie that I was enough until the moment my husband or my kids snapped at me because their day at work or school was hard. Then I thought they didn't love me anymore. Or if I texted a friend and they didn't respond for a long time or at all, I thought I did something to make them no longer want to be my friend. There were even moments where I started projecting this unhealthy mindset onto my relationship with God. He doesn't love me today because my prayers sucked and I didn't read a whole chapter of the Bible. I yelled at my kids. I ignored my husband. I felt responsible for keeping my loved ones happy, loved, and supported. But in all that undue burden I put on myself, I was plunging deeper into depression because I didn't know who I was. And whenever they had a bad day or were busy and couldn't get back to me right away, I took that to mean I had failed them and would need to try harder next time. It was a vicious cycle for most of my life. Can you relate to this struggle at all? I think most of the time we are all well-intentioned when we want to help and support our friends and loved ones. But what about when our help is no longer helpful, but toxic? I'm Anna Murby, and this is Honest Christian Conversations. Whether this is your first time or you are a returning listener, thank you for joining me today. It is no accident you are here for this episode. Do you know how to spot the difference between codependency and a healthy relationship? Today's guest shares his story, which is a cautionary tale of codependency while living with a spouse who suffers from substance abuse. Steve Rotermund shares the harsh realities of living this lifestyle and how it affected his whole family, his ministry, and his faith in God. Through his recovery journey, a passion project was born, a Christ-centered 12-step recovery community, which we discuss in our conversation. This episode is heavy, but absolutely necessary, offering hope and freedom as well as caution for anyone who finds themselves in either the position of the addicted or codependent. If you already know you have codependencies and aren't quite ready to take this step with me today, I understand. You have to be ready to change. I can't make you change. I have a solution for you. Go to the show notes and click the Retrain Your Brain link. I created a private podcast series out of my heart's burden to see people set free from their addiction, bad habits, and deep struggles, like I was when I went through recovery from my addiction. Each audio devotional is delivered to your email and can be completed on your own timeline, so there's no pressure, just biblical encouragement and equipping for your journey to being healthy and whole in Christ. If this suits you better, go ahead and revisit this episode after you finish the Retrain Your Brain series. Before this conversation starts, I encourage you to pray that God would open your heart to hear what He wants to say to you in this moment. Now let's get to the episode. Steve, thank you for joining me today. I am so excited to pick your brain about this side of addiction that I am not really too familiar with because I was an addict to porn for 17 years. So, and the people I was with were also addicts. So we didn't really have that. Well, we had codependency unhealthy, but not in the way that you did, where you lived it out with your spouse, but from a completely different angle. You weren't going through the same addiction that she was. So you were having to live what you were going through while being there for her as well. Let's just start with where you were when you found out about her addiction? I know you were in ministry, so just go in depth with that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I thank you for having me on. It's such a pleasure to be here, and we'll pick what little brain I have left, but I do appreciate it. And yeah, I we were married in 95, and in 1998, I went downstairs to look for something. I don't know what I went to look for, but I went downstairs and I was rummaging through some stuff. And back in the 90s, when you got a prescription, they would staple the doctor's name and how many pills you got and what was filled. And they'd staple everything to the bag. Now it's kind of electronic,
Mhm.
but everything was
Yeah.
stapled to a bag. And I found like two plastic grocery bags full of prescriptions.
Hmm.
And well, just the bags, just the empty stuff. Like she was going to throw it away when I wasn't there, or I don't know, but it was just all hidden. And I picked it up and I was like, started looking through it, and I was just kind of in a flight or fight mode. I didn't know what to do. And I just grabbed it and threw it in my briefcase and I walked out the door and I went to work and I
Hmm.
started looking at it all. And back in the 90s and early 2000s, doctor shopping was very popular.
Mhm.
And that would be, you could go to 4 or 5 different doctors and they just weren't connected like they are now. And you can get different prescriptions at different doctors. And it was all pain medication. It was all narcotics.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of people doing that
Yeah.
before. Yeah. I
And
I
that's,
remember the stapling to the bags and everything too.
yeah. And I ended up going to her mother's house and I laid all the evidence out on the table. I'm like, I don't know what to do. What do we do here? To me, this looks like an addiction. And I just didn't know it. I was just blindsided and I
Mhm.
didn't know how to handle it. And we went and confronted her, and it ended up to where her mom turned against me. She turned
Oh.
against me. She wasn't doing it. I was a liar. And I ended up leaving. I had 2 boys at the time, young boys. And I ended up leaving, went to a hotel, and I was just like, man, I got to clear this. I got to figure out what I was going to do. I went to my parents. I think my wife's an addict. What do I do? Oh, honey, we're so sorry. Hopefully you get through it all. Went to
Mm.
my best friends. My wife's an addict. Can you help me? What do I do? Man, hope things work out for you, but I'm here for you. It was just like I was left all alone. It was
How
crazy.
old were you at this time?
I was 28 going on 29 years old.
So she would have been around the same age
She
as
would have
well.
been, yeah, she would have been about
Okay.
28. She was
Wow,
about
you
a year
guys were
younger.
young
Yes.
and nobody was there to help. That's
No,
that's
and
heartbreaking.
I think most people that are entangled with somebody that's an addict realize that people just don't know how to handle it. They don't know what
Mhm.
to say. They don't, they'll throw some Christianese words at you, but
Yeah.
they really just don't know how to tackle this and be a support. Most people, I should say, be a
Yeah.
support for you.
Did you have faith at that time? Were you raised in a Christian home? Is that something you came to later?
I came to it later. I didn't know the Lord.
Okay.
Um,
So at this time, you didn't
I
know the
didn't.
Lord.
Well, no, I
Okay.
knew the Lord at that time, but when I was
Okay.
growing up, I wasn't in a home. I was invited to
Okay.
Sunday school here and there as a child, but my mother-in-law actually was a very devout follower of Christ, and she would talk to me about
Mm.
Jesus Christ. My parents were Jehovah Witnesses. They became Jehovah Witnesses late in their life,
Mhm.
and I went there a couple times with them just to go with them, and I sat there and just said, "Okay." I didn't believe there either,
Hmm.
but she kept talking about how great Jesus was and how I needed him in my life. And when I became 21 years old, a few Sundays later, I went to church by myself. The church that uh, she said was a really good church that she went to every once in a while. And I went there, and that's where I found the Lord. It was like nobody else was there. It was just the pastor, and he just started talking. And it was like talking directly to me. And I went forward and said the prayer and got my ticket to heaven and, left the church, and we ended up going to church more. And if you remember back in the 90s, early 2000s, Promise Keepers was big. It was a big
Mhm.
men's ministry.
Yep.
Was involved in Promise Keepers, and I'd go and I'm like, man, God was going to have me preach to people like this someday. This is what I'm going to do. And so excited. And I'd follow them around the country and volunteer. And that's how we started getting to know the Lord. So when I found this, yes, we were going to church, and yes, we kind of
Okay.
knew the Lord. So when I moved out, it took about a week, and then she finally, I think she freaked out going, "Okay, I can't do this alone." And
Not to
she's
interrupt again, did you
Yeah.
take the kids with you? Were
No, I
you
didn't.
concerned about them?
No, because she wasn't showing the mannerisms
Okay.
of passing out and,
Okay.
those, different mannerisms yet.
Okay.
And then she went and got an outpatient, treatment center and went
Mhm.
through that for about a week, came back, and we had an opportunity to move to Columbus, Ohio from St. Louis. We lived in St. Louis at the time. And at that time, I was like, okay, this might be a great opportunity for us. And we moved to Columbus, Ohio. In the back of my mind, I'm figuring, okay, we can get rid of all the doctors. We just run from
Mhm.
the problems, right? We don't face it head on. We just run.
Yeah.
And we moved to Columbus, Ohio. And some neighbors came down that our kids would play together. Neighbors came down and said, "Hey, would you like to go to church?" And we said, "Yeah, we haven't been for a little bit since we moved here. We'd love to go to church." And we went to church. And I ended up meeting a pastor and said, "Hey, I was called to preach." I was in ministry with the Promise Keepers a little bit. And he took me under his wing. And my ministry career just excelled from there.
Hmm.
And this was in about uh, 2005
Mhm.
that all this started to take place. Well, I ended up having appendicitis and uh, went to the emergency room, came home, was recovering, went back for a follow up. And the doctor says, "Do you need more medication?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, I don't take drugs. I don't
Yeah.
like them. I don't like the way they make me feel. I don't take them." He's
Yeah.
like, "Well, your wife said that you went through the first batch and then you lost the second batch.
Oh,
And I didn't know if you needed another prescription." I said, "No, I'm fine." And talk about shame and
yeah.
embarrassment and humiliation. So I go home, confront her, and it just blows up. And no, I didn't. And he's got it mixed up with somebody else. And so at that point, it's like, okay, she's back on her addiction. So I'm going to fix it.
Mhm.
I'm just going to fix it. And for the next few years, I tried to fix it and tried to keep it under control. And I was in ministry and I'm in a pulpit.
Mhm.
And this whole time, I'm watching God help other people and just loving on other people, selling Jesus, loving what I'm doing. And it was a secret we kept from the
Mm.
church and a secret we kept from everybody. And I tried to control it, and it was getting worse and worse and worse. And then those mannerisms started coming.
Mhm.
And she'd started nodding off here and there. And you could tell you'd come home from work and you could just look in the eyes and just see I call
Yeah.
it a dirty high. You can just see the dirty high in her
The
face.
eyes are the windows to the soul for a reason. You can see a
Yes.
lot through them, yeah.
And I would try to fix it, and we'd have these fights, and
Mm.
it was just a complete mess. And fast forward to me planning a church. I mean, I was a children's pastor, I was a men's pastor, did men's ministry, I did Celebrate Recovery, I was a commander of Celebrate Recovery, did all these things while hiding that my
Mhm.
wife's an addict. And when I planted a church and had a radio ministry, it was just became to the point where we were just fighting all the time. And then I'd have
Mhm.
to go to church being fake and just it was just a complete it was hell. It was just complete hell. She would be passing out on the front row at church
Mm.
while I'm preaching. And I was just like, I'm done. I just can't do it anymore. And I
How
God, I
did
don't
that make you feel seeing that when you're at I mean, I know being on stage, you probably can't see a lot because of all the lights on you, but when you saw that as you're preaching, how did that make you feel?
I was very angry,
Mhm.
um, shameful,
Mm.
embarrassed, and I walked away from the church. I
Mm.
talked to another pastor, handed it over to another church, walked away. We moved out of the community because of shame.
Mhm.
And we moved into a rural area and I walked away from God. I said, I'm done. I'm completely
Wow.
done. Why won't you fix her? Why won't you fix her problem? Why won't you get us on track? I'm working for you. I'm doing work for the kingdom.
Hmm.
And it just didn't work. And I decided I don't need God. I'll just fix myself. So then it was 2.5 years of cutting all the credit cards up. She'd still find money. I'd cut her
Mm.
off the insurance. She'd go to the state and get insurance. I didn't know it at the time, but it was my codependency battling her addiction. Her addiction,
Mm,
my codependency is going, you're going to stop doing this. And her addiction's like, screw you.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to. And it was 13 years of cat and mouse. Who's going to win the argument?
Hmm. Did
And
her parents finally apologize to you once they figured out that she actually did have an addiction, or were they just oblivious or pushing it under the rug out of they just didn't wanna believe it?
didn't want to believe it. Everybody swept it under
Mm.
the rug. See, I was the liar. I was
Ugh.
the manipulator. I was the abuser, the verbal abuser. She had to take medicine for all her ailments. And
Hmm.
I was just trying to be controlling. So her whole family was against me. Everybody was against me.
That's
And
the worst kind of enabling right there. It's like
yes,
major gaslighting, and no wonder you
yes,
felt so much guilt and shame over this. You had people telling you it's all in your head, you're wrong, and you can clearly see what's going on, and you're the only one fighting to help her. I'm so sorry, Steve. That's awful.
yeah. I mean, I played my part. I don't put all the responsibility on her. I was a
Mhm.
codependent and didn't know it yet,
Mhm.
but I destroyed my family just as much as she did.
Mhm.
And during that 2 years of hell, we were getting ready to get a divorce.
Mm.
And a good Christian friend of mine's like, please go see this counselor. I'm like, I don't need a counselor. I counsel people. I'm a man. I don't need counseling.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's the
fix stuff.
age-old thing that men say. They
Right.
fix things and they don't need counseling, and
Right.
yep.
So I go to this counselor, and this is a great story. Love telling it. I'm in the office, and not 15 minutes in my appointment, he goes, yeah, you're part of the problem. I was
Hmm,
like, what? He's like, you have codependency. Instead of using drugs, you're just using emotions, but you're destroying your family just as much as she is. And
wow.
I about decked him. I was about ready to get up and walk out of the office. And he's like, yeah, you're the savior part of codependency. He's like, you got to feel better by fixing everybody and by feeling important.
Mm,
And I'm like, who do you think you are? And I'm paying you for this?
yeah.
And after the meeting, I walked out. I was so mad. I was in the car. I was just so angry. Didn't really talk to God because I was done with him. And I went home and I'm like, what is codependency? Because back in the 2000s, that wasn't really
Yeah.
popular. It still floats around in the recovery sector, but it's just not a common word. And I looked it up. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's right. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this relationship, me being a pastor, the relationship with this person, and this person. I just went down the line and I'm like, they were all codependent. And
For those who don't know, because there's people who don't know
yeah.
or they're gonna pretend like they don't know, please share with us what codependency is so they can no longer, quote, unquote, "be in the dark" about it.
Yes. This is the Steve version of codependency. It may not be the clinical version, but this is the Steve version. If you put all your value into another person,
Hmm,
not considering your own value, and you're only as good as they are that day, you have codependency.
mm,
Meaning, if they're in a bad mood, you automatically turn to it's because of me. I did something. It's me. You're shameful. You're trying to repair something. You're trying to get that emotional feel, that emotional high that you need, that everything's okay, that you're okay.
mm.
And you do that with everybody. And it could be a coworker, it could be a spouse, it could be son or daughter, it could be anybody, it could be people at church. But if you're putting your value into another human being and you're only as good as they are, then you definitely have codependency.
I'm definitely fighting that off. I was a big people pleaser back in the day, and I'm weaning myself off of that mentality, and it is not easy. And yeah, there's moments my husband seems off, and I'm like, "What did I do wrong?"
Right.
And I have to take a step back and be like, "Well, did I do something wrong? Okay, no, then maybe it's not about me. Let's just ask him what's going on." So,
Yes, it's
yeah.
the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, right? So
Mhm. Yep.
if you are feeling less than, he wins, and that's where he wants you. So
Yeah.
you can go ahead and start fighting with that person. What did I do? What did I do? And smother them and everything else. And then turn it into a big old fight. And now you're wrecked for 5, 6 days
Yeah.
instead of just, okay, I didn't do anything. And you're not wrecked at all. But that's what codependency is.
Mhm.
And I tied it to, okay, why was I such a great pastor? Because I was important.
Mm.
People needed me. People
Mhm.
looked up to me. It fed the drug that I needed, that emotional need that I was okay and that I was loved and needed.
Hmm.
And a lot of codependents don't feel that. They don't feel loved. They feel less than. They feel shamed. And due to my past and connecting it to my father was an alcoholic off and on as a teenager. My real mom abandoned me when I was a young child.
Mm.
I was
Yeah,
sexually molested.
that'll all that
Yeah.
stuff, yep, I'm seeing it, yeah.
So all that less than feeling, I'm not going to good enough, I'm not going to amount to anything. That's where that codependency develops. And
Mhm.
it's a very big insecurity that likes to hide because
Yeah,
we feel okay and we feel like we're doing the right thing. But when you
until we
actually,
don't.
until you break it down and look at it,
Mhm.
and I was, to let people out there know, I thought my wife was taking drugs to escape me.
Mm.
I thought she was escaping me because I did something wrong, because I was bad. That's how bad the codependency got. So if I could
Wow.
just fix her, she won't take the medicine and she can see clearly how good I am. She'll accept me and won't have to take medicine.
Mm.
And that's where the battle becomes. And that's
Mhm.
the thought process. It wasn't, hey, addiction's bad for you. I'm going to save you from addiction. It's, I need to save me and make me feel good. So I'm going to stop your addiction.
Mm.
And it just becomes a whirlpool for 13 years.
Yep. Wow. Well, go back to where you were before I asked you for a definition of codependency.
Finding out that I had codependency, I did go back to the counselor. I started to believe in what he was saying, and I would still go up with a huge wall, but I was believing what he was saying. And then he said something that just rocked my world, to be honest with you. He said, "You need to know your identity in Jesus Christ."
Mm.
And I said, "What are you talking about? I've been a pastor for years. I know who Jesus is. I know I may be kind of mad at God right now and walked away, but I know who he is. I know what he was." And he says, "Yeah, but you were an adopted son the whole time." He's like, "You didn't live in a place of sonship of a full inheritance."
Hmm.
And I was like, "What
What
are
are
you
you
talking?"
talking about?
Right. He's like,
Ugh.
"You view God like you view your father.
Mm.
He kind of he loves you as he loves you, tolerates you, kind of waiting for you to mess up so he can say some bad things about you. And then you think Jesus just came in to sneak you in the back door because you smell like poo poo.
Mm.
And the Holy Spirit's floating around, and when you need him as a butler, you call upon him." I was like, wow, that's crazy. And so we started going through things to help surrender and release. And I went to him for 6 years. So it wasn't a quick fix.
Yeah.
But during that process, John 14:20 is what lit my world up and changed my whole Christianity view. And I've read over it before, but it never stuck out. And it was, I'll paraphrase it a little bit, but Jesus says, in that day, you're going to know that I'm in the Father's in me, and we're living in you, and we're doing this thing as a union,
Mhm.
and we're doing this together. And that just blew my world. I was like, that was never preached from the pulpit. We started to go down that road of what sonship was, an inheritance of who I was, my identity, how much I was really valuable, how much I was really worth, and how much I was really loved. And it just broke me down. I cried so many times in that counseling office. I just broke down so many different times. And I started to see clearly. I came home one day and just told my ex wife, I said, "I'm done." I said, "I've got to save myself, and I'm going to save my kids." And I moved out.
Hmm.
And at that point, uh, I said it was about 3 months later, my son called me and said, "Hey, we had a," so in 2010, I had a third son.
Mhm.
At the age of 40 now, I had my
Okay.
3rd son. So he was still a toddler, and then my 2nd son, was about, 15, and my oldest was about 18, or
Mhm.
going on 18. He didn't wanna have anything to do with me. He was her best friend. I was the bad
Mm.
person. So she split us up, and then Zach, the middle son, was on my side. And
How did that affect you? This was your family. You were trying to protect them. You wanted to help her, and she managed to poison at least one of your children against you. How did you feel about that?
at the time, it was very hurtful, but
Mhm.
I had a mission. I had to get better,
Mhm.
and I knew that it was gonna take time to repair everything.
Mhm.
But when I moved out, my son would come over, my oldest son, and
Mhm.
we'd go to dinner and a movie every single week,
Hmm.
and I would just slowly repair that relationship and just be open and honest with him. It made some headway, not the best, but it made some headway.
Mhm.
And then my 15-year-old son calls me and says, "Hey, mom's on the couch, passed out. I can't get her up. Baby's in a poopy diaper, hasn't been fed."
Hmm.
And mind you, I only lived 10 minutes away. And I called the sheriff's department. I went over there, and she didn't put up a fight at all. I took the kids.
Hmm.
And 2 days later, she took off. And they didn't see
Wow.
her for a few years until she came back for the divorce proceedings. And then she had to have, it was starting to be the point where once you lose everything through Medicaid and different things like that, then you start hanging out with people that can get different drugs. And she
Mm.
unfortunately went from narcotics, prescription medication to heroin, meth,
Mm.
hanging around those kind of groups of people. And she came back. She ended up doing a stint in jail. People are going to be upset at this, but I was like, oh gosh, score one for me,
Yeah.
because that changed the view, everybody's view.
Mhm.
And then people started to come on my side. And then she had to have supervised
I
visits to
get
see the 2 kids.
I get where you're going, how you thought people were gonna be affected by what you just said, but honestly, I get it. I
Yeah.
get your heart of what you're saying is like, "I've been vindicated." It's not like a, "Ha ha! See, I was
Yeah.
right. Look at everyone, I was right." You have it from a place of, "I'm finally vindicated." And like I said, I don't have necessarily the perspective you do because I was the addict, but I can imagine that it's extremely hard to be the person on the other side who isn't dealing with it, who's trying to get people, including that person who's addicted, to see that they have a problem, and everyone's just ganging up on you like you're the bad guy.
Right.
You're trying to uncover this crime, this thing that's going on in your marriage, and everyone just thinks you're the problem, and it's poisoning your children against you. Your wife is spiraling, you feel helpless, you're angry at God because he is not helping, and you're just wanting to get better. You finally figured it out what your problem is, and you wanna fix it, but you still have all these other issues that are there, and nobody's helping you because they still think you're the problem. And then finally something big happens to the point where they have no choice but to accept that. They can no longer stick their head in the sand. They have to admit he was right. There was a situation. And I think you just had this big sigh of relief. It's finally out. Everyone's there. They know I've been vindicated. And that's all I heard when you said it. I mean, if anyone else hears
Yeah.
anything different, then maybe they need to check how they're receiving it, but that's what I heard, is that you were just relieved. It's finally out. People are going to start helping me now. I don't have to carry this all alone.
Yes. It was a tremendous weight off my shoulder.
Mm.
And we ended up we went through the divorce. and she bolted again. I mean, just took
Mm.
off. And the kids didn't see her for about 8 years total.
Wow.
And a few years ago, her mother passed away.
Hmm.
And my two older boys went to the funeral and they saw her and they tried to believe that she still wasn't an addict because she was telling them that she wasn't. She
Mhm.
was better. And my older son ended up giving her some money because she was working as
Mm.
a waitress, and he ended up giving her some money. And when they came back home, and it was like, "How was it? And how was it seeing your mom?" And it was weird, but hopefully we can start repairing things and knowing our mother and forgiving, and they learn, and we can forgive.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, she overdosed.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
My oldest son is a wreck. To this day, he's a wreck. He felt like he caused it because he gave her money.
Oh, I was just gonna ask that. Poor kid.
Yeah. And he's almost 30 now. I
Mhm.
mean, this happened just a few years ago, but he's 30
Mhm.
now, and he lives around where I live, and he hates my guts.
Oh,
Well, he acts like he hates my guts. I know it's not me. I
yeah.
know he's got
He's
anger.
just hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love him in his mess. Jesus loved me in my mess, so I just love him in
Yeah.
his mess and have open arms, and I don't
Hmm.
put any expectations on him and just love him.
Yeah.
My middle son is now living with me because he just got himself in some trouble with another female. He's a love addict
Hmm.
and got in a situation where he got arrested and just bailed him out. And he now lives with me, but God's been working on him and transforming him, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And my youngest son that went through it, that was the toddler at the time, Nathan, he's man, he's an honor student. He doesn't remember too much, thank the
Mhm.
Lord.
Yeah.
And he seems to be okay at this point. But
Wow.
the other two, we just keep praying for.
Yeah. It's hard when addiction's involved in a family. It doesn't just affect the person who's addicted, it affects everybody.
It does.
And it does not matter which kind of addiction you have. My pornography addiction, nobody knew about it because I knew how to cover my tracks, but it still affected them. If I was in a mood and angry and just needed them to go away so that I can go look at my relief, I neglected my family to do that. I didn't need things as much as I should have, like my husband. And yeah, I think as addicts, we forget that there's others involved in our lives. We're so consumed with our addiction that we can't see straight anymore. We can't think straight. We don't realize that what we're doing is hurting people. Maybe we do in the beginning, but as you numb yourself to it, you get used to it, you get codependent on it. You forget that there's other people involved and that they love you and they care about you and they want to see you change. And you don't see a need to change. I mean, your son, when he gave money, maybe he didn't see the outward appearance of her struggling. Maybe she hid it well, or maybe he was just denying it. I mean, only he knows what she actually looked like at that moment. I know with
Right.
certain drugs, it can take a toll on your outside,
Oh,
but
she
maybe
aged
he
15
yeah.
years. I mean,
Mm, yeah, and
it
maybe he
was
was just ignoring it like her family was for a while in denial. Maybe, like you said, he wanted to believe what she was saying, that she was no longer doing drugs.
right.
And to have given her money and then have her overdose, that is a big burden that we know Satan is pushing on him to make him feel like it's his fault. And I know you're doing it every day, telling him it's not his fault. It's never our fault when we give money to people who are asking for help and we just feel led to do it. It's not on us what they do with that.
Right.
And I think that's one of the main reasons why he's struggling so much right now is just feeling that guilt and that shame, and Satan just keeps putting it on him. He's stepped away from the faith, I would assume, because of
Yes.
this? Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the hardest thing of all is he's turned away from the one who truly loves him unconditionally, who is not holding this against him, and he's listening to the lies that Satan's telling him that this is your fault, that you had something to do with it, and that's really heartbreaking, but that is unfortunate in a lot of different situations. You feel a sense of guilt. I could have done more. I could have helped more. I shouldn't have done this. But that's not helpful in any situation. You can't change the past.
Right.
You have to find a way to move forward and help other people so they don't go down that road. But you can only do so much. At the end of the day, we all have free will to do what we want to do. And again, he wanted to give her money to help her. He did not know what was going to happen. Had he known, he wouldn't have given her the money. Absolutely. But that's really sad, and I'm so sorry that everything broke down like it has, but I know that people needed to hear this.
Yeah. I would never dishonor their mother,
Mhm.
and I take full responsibility for my actions. I took my anger out on my kids because I didn't understand how to deal with what I was dealing with at the time. I
Mhm.
kinda isolated them because her and I would fight all the time in the garage, and it was just a complete it was just hell. It was just complete hell. Those that are in my position, I can go try to fix my boys and jump right back into codependency and just try to hound them and fix them and work on them just like I did with their mother, and it's just like, I can't. I'm healed. I gotta step back and let them be them and let God work because all I can be is the light and love to them. I can't go in there and try to fix it again, or I'll just end up right back where I was, and it'll make the
Mhm.
relationship totally worse.
So, how is life for you now? Are you still in counseling, working through the issues that you had, or do you feel set free to a point where you don't need the counseling anymore?
I am set free. I like to
Praise
say
God.
that yes, amen. I like to say that I'm transformed, I'm healed, and, life isn't perfect.
Mhm.
Triggers come up every day, and you just have to fight those triggers, and you learned when those triggers come up, what to say, how to act, how to react, and that's what gets me through every day, but, I went through counseling for, like I said, 7 years. I'm now remarried,
Mhm.
and, beautiful wife, Sarah, who loves me unconditionally, and I kinda met her when I was in counseling,
Mhm.
and, I told my counselor that, "Man, I really like this girl, but I don't wanna get into another mess. I don't wanna fix somebody,
Mhm.
and, I don't know if she really likes me." I was just playing that
Yeah.
insecurity but wanna be confident, and he just like, "You know what? This girl really digs your chili." I'm like I'm
I've
like,
never heard that
"I
before.
know." And it was so funny, and so I say it all the time. She just dug my chili, and which means for people, she loved me for who I was.
Mm,
I didn't need anything above that, below that. She loved me for me. And when you have somebody love you, when you can clear your head from addiction and you have somebody that loves you and you feel love for the very first time, it's amazing. It is just
mm,
completely amazing that God allows two human beings to act like that. I can feel God's love and knows God's love, but this is just different. And moving forward with that, it took another 10 years for me to finally get comfortable and step back into ministry because I was out of church for a while and I was very
mhm,
angry. And when I did go back to church, I had walls up.
mhm,
So I then go through life working and going, God, did I blow my chance at ministry? Did I screw up? It's like, don't let your insecurities come in again. He's like, I didn't mess it up. He's like, I just need you to do two things. You need to forgive." And I said, "I've forgiven everybody. What are you talking about? I forgive my wife. I forgive her family. I forgive my kids. I've forgiven everybody." It's like, "You never forgave yourself."
Hmm.
I broke down and cried, just bawled because I never forgave myself for not fixing her, and I never forgave myself for being a horrible father. And once I let that go, now we're going into year 2 of the ministry, and the passion is to help people with an unhealthy habit, any
Hmm.
unhealthy habit.
Well, before we start talking about the work that you do now, I want to go back and ask you some questions
Yeah,
about dealing with a spouse who's got an addiction. If you want to limit it to just the type that you know, which is the pills, painkillers, and everything, substance abuse, that's fine. But how will a spouse know when there's trouble with their spouse? Like, you noticed the bag that had different doctors on it and her name all over it hidden. That seems kind of obvious that something's a little off. But were there things that you maybe had ignored before that, that you just kind of dismissed? "I thought she got this thing of pills yesterday. Why is it already empty?" kind of a thing, you know? Like, just walk us through how aware we should be as a spouse dealing with someone who might be addicted to something.
yeah. I'll be honest and say I was ignorant.
Mhm,
I didn't have a clue. Her father was an alcoholic. Over my head. She was also sexually molested as a child. That went over my head. I just thought
mhm,
we were 2 people exactly alike, and we're gonna get through life. We had hard times, but so what?
mhm,
And then her father passed away in '97, and '98 is when I found the pills,
mhm,
and I didn't put the 2 together. She started acting different, not crazy, but she'd be tired all I just thought she was depressed.
mhm,
I just thought she was depressed, still trying to get over her dad, not realizing that she never forgave him for the things he did, so it wrecked her on top of everything else, all her trauma. So I
mhm,
never connected any of those dots. But I will tell people that maybe are beyond that and maybe been living through this just a little bit longer. If your gut is telling you something, I like to say, people say, I get this gut feeling. I think it's the spirit
mhm,
just trying to throw up some red flags of saying, hey, this is out there. If you have that feeling, then you need to investigate it further without confrontation. You just need to investigate things a little bit further because in your heart, you're normally right in this situation. Because I've talked to a lot of people that have gone through the same thing that said, I just had this feeling. It's like, yeah, but here we are 13 years later. I had this
mhm,
feeling, but I wasn't healthy enough to fight it. So that would be step one is just the awareness of it and investigate that further. If you're in the phase where you're fighting all the time now and trying to fix it, save yourself. Go
mhm.
get yourself help and just back off and get healthy that way. Otherwise, you're just gonna go down with the ship.
Yeah.
The addict is always normally always stronger than the support person.
Mhm,
So you're always gonna go down with that ship
mhm,
unless they wake up and they're like, "Okay, people have to hit rock bottom." My wife never hit rock bottom. She lost
mhm.
her husband, she lost her house, she lost her car, she lost her kids. She never hit rock bottom. So don't go down with that ship.
How should the spouse who's trying to help, how should they approach the situation when they've collected enough evidence to prove their point that their spouse has a problem? How should they approach it? You went to your in-laws. Would you say that's a good step, or do you think there's another way you might have approached it if you had a chance to do it again?
I would approach it as in finding a support group.
Hmm.
There's all kinds of support groups for people entangled with addicts.
Mhm.
If you can find a support group, that would be great. Um, but yeah, if you go to her family, I don't know how close you are. There's all different kinds of things that play
Yeah.
factors in. Um, but if you have enough evidence and you do approach your other, the person that you're with, you have to do it out of love this time. You have to do it out of just complete love and see where that goes first. You'll have to have a plan in place. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and approach this person. Either this person's going to accept this and go get help, or this person's going to deny it. What am I going to do if they deny it? Okay, how long are you going
Mm.
to live with that? Because they're going to
Mhm.
deny it. And if you have the evidence, like I did, I should have right then and there been like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to save my kids. I'm going to save my
Yeah.
family. And, I didn't do that. I fought the deny, because that's why you have to make sure you're healthy first.
Mhm.
See, I wasn't healthy, so I didn't know all this stuff.
Mhm.
So when she says, no, I'm not taking any medicine. Oh, yeah, you are. I know you are, but I'm going to still fix you. And I keep approaching and I keep approaching instead of backing off with a clear head. I kept approaching and getting sucked into it and getting sucked into it and getting sucked into it. That's what I mean. You can't go down with that ship. You have to have a plan, but you have to be healthy first. But if you go in there all hostile, and look what I found, and you're an alcoholic, and you did this, and you did that, and you're not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah, that's the
Not
worst
gonna,
thing you can do.
yeah. You have to attack it in a loving way.
Mhm. And if you have kids who are old enough to understand what's going on, how should they be involved in this situation? Is it something that if they're asking questions, "What's wrong with mom? What's wrong with dad?" Is this appropriate for them to know the situation age appropriately, of course?
Age appropriately, yes. If they're young kids, I wouldn't, because then you're gonna start putting doubt in their mind, and you're gonna
Mm.
start putting
Mhm.
fear in their mind, you're gonna start putting shame in their mind. I wouldn't do that to destroy anybody. But if they're old enough, they're young adults, I mean, you can sit them down lovingly without degrading the other person
Mhm.
and just say, "Hey, I think this problem's going on. This is the proof I have. I just want to let you know, and this is the plan I have." I mean, it's a tough situation.
Yeah.
It's That's why my passion is to help people out of that. I don't want to see another family destroyed.
Mm.
I don't want to see kids destroyed.
Yeah.
Because while God
Right.
is good in everything,
Mhm.
my kids are still a mess.
Mm.
My ex-wife has passed away,
Mhm.
and it's just been a complete destructive bomb that went off
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of both of us.
Mhm. So how do you help people now? You have ministry that you do for this?
Yeah, just launched a 12-step community that's online. It's called Walk Right, A Path to Healing, and it is a 12-step program that is made in the identity of Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
And it's just like any other 12-step program, except for mine is a little bit, like I said, I was a commander at Celebrate Recover for a long time. Great program, loved the program, and some other 12-step programs that are out there that are non-Christian, but they focus on the problem.
Mhm.
"Hi, my name's Steve. I'm a recovering alcoholic." That's not your
Mhm.
identity. That's not who you
No.
are.
Yep.
And they want you to stop the behavior, and they want you to surrender the behavior to God, and they want you to, release that and let him fix you, which that's all great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting it down. But mine is focused on transformation.
Mm.
We start on the inside where Jesus wants to be. Because once
Mhm.
you get transformed on the inside, you're not gonna wanna do the addiction or the unhealthy habit.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, it's not about behavior modification, it's about transition. And that's what was eye-opening for me when I went through counseling, and that's what was eye-opening for me that God revealed to me. It's just, I was a Christian all these years, but I was still a jerk.
Hmm.
I would go home and belittle my wife. I would go home and take stuff out on my kids because I didn't know how to handle my
Mhm.
wife, but I had this ticket to go to heaven, and it was in my pocket, and there was no transformation. None. We just get that security and we love people and we're nice to people and we try to do right, but, you leave church and then you're flipping somebody off because they cut you off on the way out the church parking lot. I mean, I've
Mhm.
seen it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
There's just no transformation. So mine is about transforming, letting God actually surrendering that, knowing it's more important to know how valuable you really are and that you had a relationship with him before the foundation of the earth, that you were created with him before the foundation of the earth, and how important that is to embrace how much you really are loved. And it
Mhm,
has the principles, it has devotionals, it has all these tools and lessons to help you go through these worksheets. But more importantly, it's a community. I'm hoping a bunch of people will come on in support of their local 12-step program because it's not to replace anything. But I remember when I was going through recovery, it's like I couldn't wait till Thursday night at 6. I needed somebody today,
hmm,
and it was Tuesday. So you can jump online. Hopefully, people are there that have some same issues that people can just love on each other because community is so important in
yeah,
recovery.
I agree.
And I designed it like this. It's a big party. I'm inviting everybody to it. They're having so much fun. I can go upstairs and go to bed. I'm not needed,
Mm,
but I'll facilitate everything, obviously. But that's the big thing I'm doing. And then obviously, I do coaching one on one with people that are entangled with somebody, help them walk through that and what path they're going to take, whether it be divorce, whether it be stay, whether it be an outpatient service or some kind of recovery program. I help them with that. And then I go around and I speak on different recovery topics and speak at different churches about just transformation, about stepping out of the old and into the new and what Ephesians really means. And that's pretty much the ministry. I do have a couple podcasts. One is a recovery podcast that goes with the community. It's called Recovery and Identity. And then I just have a devotional, just a Bible devotional podcast called Walk Right Up Out to Healing. Those come out on Wednesdays. The other one comes out on Thursdays.
awesome. Have you had any couples that were on the brink of maybe divorce because of an addiction, codependency issue, but through the help that you gave, they were able to overcome and stay together and keep their families intact? Have you experienced anything like that?
Working through that right now. I
Mm,
haven't been through a complete completion since, I'm only second. This is my second year into this
mhm,
ministry. So we are working through a couple of those situations, but we'll have
mhm.
to check back in to see where, where it
Yeah.
goes. Because
Mhm.
I don't come in here and be like, you can't divorce.
Yeah,
It's whatever's healthy for
yeah.
the
Sometimes
everybody.
it's necessary,
Sometimes it is.
unfortunately, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
God hates divorce, but there are times where, there's danger involved.
Yeah.
What if she had had an overdose while your young son was really young and no one was there to take care of him? What would have happened? So, yeah, I understand. And there's a level of guilt and shame that comes with that too. When you feel that, divorce is imminent here, you get that guilt and shame because as Christians,
Yeah.
we're not supposed to do that.
I'm a failure. God's mad.
Yeah.
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 And that's not healthy either.
God specifically told me, he says, you cried out all those years to help fix your wife. He's like, I just wanted to fix you.
Yeah.
I was there the whole time, the entire time. Steve, what are you doing? I'm right here. What are you doing? But you were so focused on her, there was no way he was going to get through to me.
Yeah. Reminds me of the verse where it talks about the plank in your eye
Yeah.
and the speck in someone else's. We we do that. I've done that. I still have my moments where I do that. We do that.
Yes.
We think we can fix other people, we can save them, and sometimes you have to take a step back, a humble step back and say, "I can't. I'm not the savior. It's not my job." He knows everything. Who's he knows their fate. He knows what's going to happen. He he pursued you to help you,
Hmm.
and now you have the opportunity to help others, and I'm very grateful for you sharing your story about this and sharing your ministry work. and being open and honest about how things were for you, how you were as a person, and giving us a different perspective that we don't often hear when we hear about addiction. We hear a lot about how it affected the person who was addicted, but we never hear about the people who were left in the wake of that, how their stories went, how it went for them being in the midst of that, seeing it from their perspective. And you've given us a new way to look at this, to have a sober mind about this situation. I believe you've given us some great starting off points to be more aware in our lives and in the lives of our loved ones, to see if maybe we're being codependent, if they're being codependent to us, and if maybe someone's hiding something that needs to be addressed. So I thank you so much for being on and sharing that with us.
Yeah, that's the story that God's given me, and we'll bless other people with it. Just remember, those that are listening, 12 steps are not for air quotes those people. Most people think 12 steps for alcoholics or and
Mhm.
drug addicts. It's not. If you have anger, if you have anxiety, if you have worry, if you overeat, pornography, anything, any unhealthy habit that keeps you from your identity, a Christian 12-step program can really help you
Mhm.
see
I agree.
clearly. Yeah. But
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. I mean, you've shown us that codependency is a real thing. I mean, I admitted it. When you mentioned what your definition of it was, I realized that I had that, and I'm still working through those moments where I
Yeah.
still have it. It's a very toxic trait, and it can send you spiraling. It can put you in bad situations. It can put others in bad situations. So it needs to be nipped in the bud. I believe that's the say. And it needs to be found out and cleaned out. And I think your program is just one brilliant way to do that.
Yes. Thank you.
So if people want to get involved with your 12-step program, how can they do that?
Yeah. If you just go to www.walkrightministries.com, all the information's there, how to get to the community, the coaching, the speaking. Um, it's all there. The podcast, everything's there.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Steve, for coming on and sharing hope for those who are in the middle of a very difficult situation. And hopefully, you who are listening right now to this, if you are feeling led to check out his ministry, Steve, give it to us again. What's the website?
Walkrightministries.com.
All right. If you feel led by God right now, you're feeling that tug that He's telling you need to get involved in this somehow, then don't ignore that. He's trying to help you. He wants to help us all. We're constantly praying, Lord, please help us. And then He sends different ways to help us, but because it's not the way we thought it was going to be, we don't consider it help. But here is your olive branch of help today from the Lord. If you need it, take it. If you aren't quite ready for that step, you can go to honestchristianconversations.com/contact, and you can just message me and tell me what's on your heart, and I will be praying for you. Thank you again, Steve, for coming on and sharing this with us.
You're so welcome. Folks, there's victory on the other side.
Amen. How did today's episode affect you? If something stirred in your heart or challenged you, you're not alone. I felt it too. If you need prayer, I would truly love to pray with you. You can reach out through the link in the show notes. And if you're ready to take a deeper step toward healing and transformation, you can also check out my Retrain Your Brain series. It's designed to help walk with you through that process. God bless you, and I look forward to our next conversation.